Hi everyone, my name is Paige and you are watching Elevate Filipino TV. It's the place where you want to be to discover possibilities, unlock your potential so you can finally create a life and a business that you love. Joining me today is my dear friend Grace Harris. Grace is an international coach and speaker and is the founder of Become the Woman of Your Dreams Academy. Hi Grace, welcome.
Hello, Paige. Thanks for having me here. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited that we have this opportunity to chat once again. I actually met Grace, which I believe is by fate. We were part of the same mastermind group. And I remember just being so amazed by her personal story of resiliency, reinvention, and just remarkable comeback in life. And Grace is actually writing a memoir about it. So Grace, for those of us, who are meeting you for the first time, I would like to find out, tell us why. What inspired this book and why now?
Sure. Yeah, thanks. First of all, I want to thank you and I want to say hello to everybody and welcome to watching this show. And I'm really, really excited to be here. And I'm honored that Paige invited me here. So Become the Woman of Your Dreams is a book about forgiveness and healing and love. And it really illustrates the story of myself and other people that have been, transformative for me in my life. And so it starts back in southern Philippines where I was born when I was 5 years old. And, the most catalytic event of my life was when I was actually abandoned at 5 years old. And I grew up in an environment where it really surrounded me with a lot of adversities. And for a while, for a long time, it was the story of my life. I carried it subliminally so that it transmuted itself into a story that really gave me beliefs that were not so good for my life, which I didn't know at the time, self-limiting beliefs. For example, I was bullied a lot and I went through adversities like abandonment and abuse and exposure to things like drug abuse and alcohol and whatnot. And so it wasn't very ideal for a child. And I had that for a good, 15, 19, 20 years before I actually left the town. And what I didn't know was, because what I did when I was about 20, 23, 24, I left the country to move to Australia looking for a better life. And I thought that by changing my physical environment, I would also change my life. I would find what people referred to as personal happiness. But what I found was everywhere I went, I took myself with me. I took my beliefs with me. I took my values with me. So I was really confronted for quite a long time, probably about 15 years, with my own limiting beliefs. I had to live through that. I had to actually involve myself with people, places, experiences that really did not serve my ultimate purpose. And it wasn't until a couple of significant series of life experiences that had happened to me that I realized that, really the universe, God, or whatever you call your higher supreme being, really pushed me to an edge where I was forced to look at life of how I've lived it so far and really how I'm going to spend my precious time in this world, once I had that, I had a near-death experience where I was supposed to just have just a run-of-the-mill stock standard operation, but then for some reason I had an accidental overdose with anesthesia, and so I almost did not wake up. And from that experience, I realized how lucky was I to still have a second chance. And from then on, I did everything that I could. That was 7 years ago, and with everything that I've done in order to heal myself, I thought that my legacy would be at least to tell my story and let people know that I know that in the Philippines alone, there are at the moment over 2 million abandoned children. And most of these children's circumstances are brought about by poverty. There's a fraction of these abandoned children that have come from middle-class families whose family actually had the ability to raise them but chose not to, and I belong to that. And in Asia alone, according to Agape Foundation, in 2018, this is 2 years ago, there are about 6 million abandoned children. So what I want to do is really, through this book and my story, teach women to become really empowered and be the best versions of themselves so that they can have the ability to love and to forgive and to nurture little kids, even kids that are not their own. You know, Paige does not know this, but yeah, so I'm a mother of two, but I'm also a stepmother twice over. So I had a stepchild with my ex-husband. I've got two of my own, and I have a stepson now, which you know, it might as well be mine 100%. And so it's that opportunity to give back, to be a mother that I've never had. And I'm just really blessed that I could, you know, share my story with you guys and grow together.
So Grace, you know, you touched on a couple of things that I would like to dive in deeper. First was you had this belief that if you just remove yourself from that physical environment, that your entire life would change, you know. And obviously that is very powerful, especially if you're coming from, you know, a toxic or very abusive environment, right? But a lot I in relation to this, like a lot of the times Filipinos actually would like to go abroad in search of a greener pasture, and that is also the same mindset, right? Because they're looking for a better life, when really ultimately what you're saying is the only residence that we should really care about is in our mind. So how do you maneuver into moving from that type of mindset?
Yeah, great question. And I love that question. So the maneuvering itself is a combination of a fun experience, spiritual experience, challenging experience. But what I've found in my experience is that it is three levels, three main levels. We can dive in deeper into this if you like, but what I teach women now is that the first one is self-awareness,
Mm.
and the second one is self-mastery. And once you have those two rhyming and humming along together, you'll be able to find what most people call purpose. For me, it's legacy. It's what you really leave behind. So purpose is anything, you know. It could be that you love to help people in terms of showing them how to cook well, or your purpose could be how to teach business mindset, or your purpose could be to raise as many children as possible. But the purpose, the thing that you love to do the most, will never really come out authentically unless you become really self-aware and you really master yourself. What does that look like? Let me just dive deep into that really quickly. Self-awareness really is having that knowledge that, so if you look up self-awareness on the dictionary, I think it says something like the conscious knowledge of one's own character and feelings. Now it's divided into two: the conscious knowledge, which is the awareness, and character and feelings, which is yourself. Now the self is what we know of to be who we are, and it's the form. You know, we're a woman, we're a man, we're a small, medium, large, we're a Muslim, we're Catholic, and whatnot. We're a nurse, we're a doctor, we're an accountant, or whatever it is. And the awareness is the formless. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you couldn't hear it. It's just the presence. If you think about the sky and the clouds, so the self is the clouds. It changes all the time, but your awareness is just there. And once you know that the things that you think about or the beliefs that you have are not necessarily your true form, then you will have the power to change those beliefs. So if you have a belief that says, um, I'm I'm not really good at cooking. Well, what evidence do you have though? I mean, we have every every tools and every technology that could teach you. YouTube, you can go, you can get a tutor, and so you really don't have evidence that you are not good at it, because if you try your best and you change that belief system, it is possible to master yourself.
Mm. So you touched on self-awareness, which is ultimately, our idea of self, before we get to that level of awareness is really, like what we do, what we've accomplished, where we've been to. But awareness is more, and it's not tangible, right? It's more limitless, right? And now you bridge that into self-mastery. So could you share with us, it's actually one of my passions too, self-mastery, but in your own words, Grace, what is self-mastery?
Yes, so self mastery is being able to design your life so that your decisions are, I call this the paradigms of self love.
Mm.
because self-awareness and self-love are very much correlated. So the paradigms are really about making sure that your decisions are integrated and congruent to your actions so that they lead to your evolving purpose. Now, bearing in mind, when I say evolving purpose, it's because your legacy changes, your purpose changes. For example, when a child is born, the purpose that they have is to learn to walk and talk. But
Mhm.
when they become adults, for example, they become women and they get pregnant and they're having a child. At childbirth, the only purpose of a woman is to really give birth to the
Mhm.
child, do or die. So your purpose is always evolving. But in order for you to be doing the purpose that serves your true self, your authentic self, you have to be creating decisions that turns into good actions. So decisions and actions are like nuts and bolts. They
Mhm.
come together, they can't be separated. Now, you've got to be careful because in the paradigms of your own self-love, you have to really break it down into, are my decisions based on beliefs that are fearless, or are they based on beliefs that are fear-based? If I can tell you one little quick story. So as a child, I have been learning to swim for probably since I was, I don't know, 8 years old until I was like 42 years old. I'm 45 now. But so in that time, that's a long time. I had a few people try to teach me, and so I had a couple of a couple of real instructors that I paid, and then I had an uncle who also taught me in different beaches. And but for the life of me, I could not swim. I would just sink every time I touched the water. And I tried to think of this in the last 3 years. Where is this coming from? Because I can sense that it is fear. Everything that I do is exactly the same person next to me that she's doing, and she can swim. So I had to really dissect that belief system that when I'm in the water, I'm going to drown. And then I remembered a time in my life, because we lived near the beach when in the Philippines, and then someone told me, don't go there because you can't swim. If you try to swim, you will die. And because I was so impressionable, I was like around 6 or something or 7, I believed then that if I went to the beach, I would die. And
Mhm.
so that was my belief system that I was so unconscious of, because I didn't have enough self-awareness. I was so attached to my own belief system, and I didn't know that my thoughts are just thoughts that are passing that I could change. My
Mhm.
awareness was just so ingrained to the limiting beliefs. And so once I separated those two, and once I was able to look at the belief system as something that is changeable, that I've got the power to actually recalibrate, reprogram that, I started thinking, hang on, I should be able to swim by now. And lo and behold, one day I went to the beach with my son. He was going surfing, and then I was left alone, and there was this man-made pool. And I said, well, there's no one there. Let me just try. And then I just swam, just like that,
Oh.
just like that. And so the decision was fearless. I remember feeling, I can do this. There's no reason that
Mhm.
I can't do this. So I was coming from a fearless place, whereas before I was coming from a fear-based belief, fear-based decision. Therefore, the action, which was the swimming action, was always going to fail. And so self-mastery is about creating a legacy based on decisions and actions that are fearless. Fearless means love, fearless means forgiveness, fearless means helping others and serving others. It's thinking outside of yourself and thinking for the greater good.
Isn't it so profound that you had this thought when you were a child and only up to the age of 42 where you actually realize, oh my gosh, it's this thought or belief that's actually stopping me from accomplishing what I want to accomplish. That's
Yes, it's
insane.
yeah.
I think
Long
that's where
time, but yeah, it's
self-awareness comes from, right?
yeah. Yeah, and look, it doesn't matter if you're, I don't know, 60, 70. It's never too late. It's actually exciting,
Yeah.
because what happens is once you decide, I'm going to now explore my self-awareness, just remember you've got 60 years to explore behind you. If you're 60 years old, if you're 33, you've got 33 years behind you to explore. So look at the exciting part of it. It's quite a self-discovery, and I'm really excited for those that are listening for the first time about self-awareness. Yeah, it's a beautiful experience.
So Grace, one of the things that you actually, you and I spoke about this before even this interview, and you mentioned it briefly too, is it's so surprising that a lot of the times people don't want to talk about the reality that there are a lot of children that are being abandoned, like just thinking about the Philippines alone. Um, and so, as you write this memoir of yours, writing something that is nonfiction versus something that is fiction is a totally different experience, as on its own. And I'm curious to find out, as you're writing your memoir, what are some other things that caught you by surprise?
Yeah, so it caught me by surprise. Some things that I didn't think I had in my memory. So what it did to me though is that it took me to a journey of deeper healing. So first I go into the book thinking, I know what I'm going to write. I know the story. And then I'm a writer by nature. So I spent a few years in college as an editor for the school paper. And I loved that. And I was involved with College Editors Guild of the Philippines. And so I thought I knew what I was going to write. I was like, okay, I've got this. But then when I started writing, I was a few chapters in, and then all these memories came flooding back in, and that was confronting for me, Paige. But then what it did for me was I was forced to go into a deeper healing in order that I can really, I can heal myself as I tell my story. Because I knew that by telling the story, I knew that by being vulnerable, a lot of people would also learn the lesson of vulnerability itself. Because a lot of times, I was actually interviewing a person about 4 months ago, just before COVID happened. His name was Brett Deller. He's a man, but he speaks about man mask. And what that is that a lot of the time, we're so afraid to speak of the things that have happened to us because we think that people are going to judge us for it. When in fact, these things not really happen to us, it happens for us. And the reason it happens for us is because we are not given anything that we can't handle, and we just don't know it. But the power comes in the experience of really processing what lessons we've learned from that experience. So when I was writing the book and I was remembering these things that I didn't know I had in my memory, and I was processing them and really thinking about what does this mean in my life moving forward, because I knew that my North Star, the thing that I really want to achieve when I'm older, is that I want to be a matriarch for women and for children. And so what does it mean for me telling this story for my children, my great grandchildren, for the children that will come after that, and for the women who want to be the best versions of themselves? And so I had to dive deep into the lessons that I know I've learned, but I couldn't quite verbalize. And it was the time to verbalize it in writing that book. So it was such an opportunity, really. And I really recommend to do that for everyone, even if you're not intending to publish it, but just to journalize the experience that you've had, especially if they're very significant.
And I love that you're actually using something that was, traumatizing, or something that stopped you from playing big. And now you're converting it into a book to not only process your own healing, but also in a way to, allow someone else to possibly heal from this story. And I think that's really powerful to create. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage. When I'm talking to you, when I think about your stories, your background, being abandoned at the age of 5, and is it freezing up?
Just a little, but that's okay. I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was saying is, when I think about the story of you being abandoned at the age of 5 and having to go through, abuse and years of trauma, having to live with alcoholism and drug abuse in your environment, I can't even imagine that you're the same person, just because of how different you are now. And, I love what you said in one of your speeches. You said the answers to your questions are within you, no matter what. You are the hero you've always been looking for. Now, Grace, if you had the opportunity to speak to that child, to that young child that you were when you were 5 years old, what would you tell her?
You know, I did. I had this, I actually did. I had a spiritual experience, exactly that. She came to me. She was little. And at first I thought I was seeing something else, but then I realized it was a spiritual experience, my opportunity to actually speak with her. And it wasn't so much that I said something, but I came to give her a hug. And this is going to make me a little bit emotional, so pardon me. But one of the things that a child um, who is abandoned that does not get very much of is physical touch. And so that's what I gave to her. The first thing I gave to her was a hug. And then I said to her, from now on, you won't be alone. I've got you. And so what happened to me there, I think, is that it was the start of me integrating the woman that I've become and the child that had got stunted. Because what happens is when things like this happen to a child, it's sort of like a death. In a way, it's a form of death. So I've sort of like got stunted in the 5-year-old girl, and that girl was so vulnerable, was the one that's always shrinking whenever someone is being being very strong at them or bullying them. And so it's like a separation, but it was my opportunity to have her back and integrate her to the woman that I've become, and to nurture her so that she can actually become one with me. And it's so true. I think that when I was when I did that speech, the hero that you're looking for is within you. It's so true, because if you look back to, if you're someone who has had a similar experience, whatever that is, it could be abandonment, it could be something else. But if you're someone who's had a similar experience, what you need to look into and what you need to remember are the moments when you were a child that really led you to a spark of hope. I remember, and this is in my book, I remember when I was a child, I would run to the open field, and I had this, I don't know what they are called in English, but it was like, those concrete circular things that are really
Oh yeah, the
massive
concrete
that you could
blocks.
hide
Yeah.
inside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to run on top of them, and the wind would just blow my hair and my face, and I would like windmill my body, and I would look up, and I'll feel so free and so good. And if I look back to it now, it's like it's the faith that's left in you, and you've got to hold on to that. And I think I did. That no matter what happened to me, I had that in me, and it was the hero that was left. Because if not for that sparkle of hope, if not for that faith, I probably wouldn't have continued to improve myself. But look for that little bit of sparkle, because everyone has one. It's called the awareness. It's the light. And so as you go through the self-awareness process, as you remove the clouds, you'll see the blue sky, and you see the light, and there it is.
My gosh, Grace, I am so grateful that you shared that story with us. I am really excited about the launch of your upcoming book, and I would love to find out, what is your hope for this book, and how can people actually grab a copy of this?
Yeah, so it's on a pre-sale, and there will be a link to where you can access the pre-sale of the book, and you can also access it on my website, which is becomethewomanofyourdreamsacademy.com.
I'm really, really excited. So, you know what, guys? If you feel like your back is against the wall, or you feel like your life, it's just, the cards are stacked against you, I'm hoping that you grab a copy of this book, read the story, and be reminded of Grace's story, because, she survived abandonment, abuse, years of trauma where other people were dictating her identity. But in our conversation, she reminded us that ultimately, you have the power to write your own story. And I really love that notion that you said, hold on to that little glimmer of hope, because that really is the key to self-awareness. And just kind of remember that positivity, and it's gonna envelope everything else in your life. So, you know what, guys, I would like to ask my dear friend here, as we wrap up this conversation, what is your parting message to our viewers today, Grace?
I would like for you to just do a life inventory. So look at yourself in the mirror and be completely naked, not so much physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. And just look at the people, the places, and the experiences that are serving your soul and hold on to them. But more than anything, be brave. Be brave to veer away and remove the people, the places, and the experiences that are not serving you, because this is the time more than ever that we have to be self-aware, that we can have the opportunity to really become the best versions of us, because life awaits, our children awaits, the future awaits, the community awaits, and you can make a difference.
I am really excited. And guys, definitely check it down below. We will link it down below. And once again, if this inspired you, make sure that you share it with us. Tag me and Grace on social media. We'd love to hear it. And, ultimately share this with your friends and your loved ones, because chances are this will change your life, but it will also change your friends' lives. So if you love this segment, please go ahead and grab a copy of the book, say hi to Grace, and once again, our mission here at Elevate Filipino TV is that together we will rise. Together we will shift the culture and be elevated Filipinos. My name is Paige, and this is my dear friend Grace, and we'll catch you on the next episode.